I am going to talk about my hard money lending company, Epic Impact Investors. For those of you who don't know, my husband and I started a hard money lending company. We are a Black owned hard money lender here in Chicago. We do lend locally for non owner occupied residential rehab projects. And we are super excited about this new venture. And we truly want to help communities of color build wealth and keep the wealth in the communities. As you all know, so many times our wealth is stripped away from us, and we want to bring together people of color who want to be investors in passive investors in real estate rehab projects in communities of color to help build communities of color back up. And so many times hard money lenders are located all across the country. Many times they don't look like us. They're not even from our locality. They're from Texas and Florida and New York and California, and they've never stepped foot in our neighborhoods in Chicago, have no clue about the wealth that's here, how valuable and how vibrant our communities are. And so sometimes they just don't want to invest here. Other times they don't care about our communities and they just take the money, they get their money, they get their return and they leave. But now it's an opportunity for people who look like me, who look like you, to invest in communities of color through passive real estate investing. And we'll hope that you'll join Epic Impact Investors on this journey. Epic Impact Investor stands for educating private investors in communities of color, because so many people of color do not even know that this is a viable way to invest in real estate passively. They never knew that you can give money through a hard money lender, invest through a hard money lender such as Epic Impact Investors, get a return on your investment. You're helping the community as well as building wealth for yourself and creating homes for people in the neighborhood to live in. So for me, it's a win-win situation. My husband and I have been privately investing in real estate for passively and privately investing in real estate for several years now. And we truly believe that this is just one of the many ways to build wealth in our communities. And so today I want to speak with you all about three major things that we do, meaning Epic Impact Investors, that we do in order to have a successful project. Now, as you all know, there is risk in any and every type of investment. There is no investment out there without risk, whether it's flipping a home, whether it's what would I say, flipping a home or passively investing in real estate. All of that carries risk. Even if you're investing in the stock market, that carries risk as well. So, we just want people to know that this is another viable way. Although it's not risk-free, it is another viable way to invest in real estate, right? So one of the things that we do as a local hard money lender, we are a local Black owned hard money lender, is, relationships are absolutely key to success in real estate investing. You all know that. We want to have a relationship not only with our capital investors, but with our borrowers as well, because everyone has a part to play in having a successful project. The borrower has to fulfill their obligations and do what it is they said they would do in order for the project to be successful. And the capital investor has to have the capital, has to be patient while the project is ongoing. So they have to fulfill their part in this process. So, and as the hard money lender, we need to fulfill our obligations as well. We do service our own loans. So we're building the relationship with the investor and the borrower as well. So relationships are certainly key to success in real estate investing. For us, a successful project means, number one, our investor gets their money back plus their return. Number two, a home gets built and sold in our communities to continue building wealth in communities of color and to help close the wealth gap. Okay, so that's the number two part of our definition of a successful project. And then number three, we want to have repeat borrowers for future projects. Yes. We want that borrower to say, hey, I'm only going to go to Epic Impact Investors because they were quick, they were efficient, they understood my project, and I had a good experience with them. And that's our definition of a successful project. So not just that it was completed or completed on time or completed on budget. It was that our investor got their money back plus their return. A home was built and sold in communities of color to help close that wealth gap and to help build wealth in our communities. And then number three, we want to have a repeat successful borrower. Okay, that repeat borrower is very important to us because not only do they know how we operate, we know how that borrower operates as well. And so that's going to create a win-win situation in the future. So here are the three things that we do as a local lender, as a local hard money lender, that help ensure a successful project. And this is so important because we need our investors to know, what goes on behind the scenes so that they're educated, so that they feel comfortable, so that they understand the parameters, and that the borrowers are educated as well, and that they know, they have processes in place. There's procedures that they're going to follow to kind of ensure that this project goes through and ends up being a successful project. So number one, we meet the borrower in person. This is not just a phone call. This is not just a Zoom. We go out, meet the borrower, and view the property in person. We just viewed a property on yesterday. Matter of fact, I was a potential funding opportunity. We went and we met the borrower and we viewed the property in person. There are so many scams and schemes and things out there that you have to take the extra step in order to guard your investors' money and to ensure that this is a viable borrower as well and a real person. So we don't want to put funds out there on some type of project that then is not viable or is not a credible project either. So we go out and we meet the borrower and we view the property in person. The second thing that we do is we review the scope of work. And for those of you who don't know what a scope of work is, the scope of work is a detailed outline of all of the planned construction and renovations which are supposed to happen on this particular property. All right. So that's what the scope of work is. So the borrower has a contractor and it basically details out everything that the contractor is going to do to this particular home, all of the renovations, all of the construction that's going to happen. And it has to be sufficiently detailed enough so that both the borrower and the contractor understand all of the work that's going to go into that and into the home, and so that you can get an accurate budget. So for example, you may have a scope of work that simply says tile, $1,000. Well, that's not adequately sufficient description for a scope of work because you don't know if $1,000 for tile is enough. Is it enough or is it too much? You have no idea because you don't have enough of a description there. So first and foremost, it's like, okay, well, where is this tile going? You might say, the whole basement floor, all of the bathrooms are going to have tile. We're going to do tile in the kitchen, So you have to say, well, to me, $1,000 doesn't sound like enough if you've got 5 bedrooms, right? I'm sorry, 5 bathrooms that you're putting tile in, that you've got a full kitchen. How big is the square footage on the kitchen? What type of tile are you putting in there? The basement floor, how big is this house? How big is the square footage on the basement floor to determine whether or not $1,000 allocated for tile is enough. And so that's why the scope of work needs to be sufficiently detailed so that when you review it, you can determine whether or not the amount allocated for that line item is going to be enough or if it's going to come up short. Okay. So that's the point of the scope of work, and it is truly an important item, and cannot be underestimated, because everything truly stems and starts from the scope of work. So it is very important that that scope of work is reviewed, is sufficiently detailed, and is utilized and followed. Okay, and so that's the second thing, is that we review the scope of work. The third thing is we have an independent inspector come out. That's right, you all. We have an independent inspector come out, meet us at the property, and we walk the property inside and out with the borrower. And that independent inspector is someone with experience in construction of homes, with renovation of homes. They understand what it is that they're looking for. They understand the costs associated with these various line items. And what they do is they compare the scope of work that was submitted by the borrower, and they compare that with their walkthrough. And you might be saying, well, why? That seems kind of redundant. The borrower already submitted the scope of work. Well, guess what? You need to understand, that sometimes the borrower doesn't always know what it is that they need in the scope of work. Maybe their contractor left some things off or forgot something. So having an independent inspector come out, walk the property, and correlate that to the scope of work saves everybody headaches in the long run. So number one, we do that to make sure that the money the borrower is requesting matches up with the work that is scheduled to be done. So if they've only requested $100,000, but after we walk the property, we're like, wait a minute, you forgot this, and this. You need $150,000 in order to finish this project. That protects our investor, and it also shows us as a partner to our borrower as well, because it lets them know we're not trying to set them up for failure. We're here to make sure that we have that successful project. And remember, I told you the three things that we believe a successful project is. One, our investor gets their money back with the return. Two, a home gets built and sold in a community of color to help close that wealth gap and to build wealth in our communities. And three, we want to have a repeat borrower for future projects. And so in order to have that successful project outcome, we need them to know, we need all eyes and hands on deck to say, hey, you forgot a few things here, or you didn't consider this, or there's some things that should be on here that aren't. Okay. So one, we want to make sure that the money matches up with the work being done. Two, we want to make sure that they haven't forgotten something, such as permits. That's a huge red flag. If we don't see permits on the scope of work, that tells us a few things. One, we're going to ask questions as to the nature of the work that they're doing to determine whether or not permits are needed. And pretty much on most of these renovations, even if, because they're mostly gut rehabs, permits are going to be required. So you definitely want to have a line item in on that. A lot of people, the city has been cracking down on projects, renovation projects that are going on, construction projects without permits, and then they're shutting them down. And with COVID, it's just taking so much longer to get the permits to come through. So had you done it in on the front end, you would have saved yourself the headache and lost and not had all that lost time and money on the back end. And so we review the scope of work to make sure they haven't forgotten something. And then third, we want to make sure they haven't underestimated something, right? So they may have a line item, like I said, for tile on the scope of work. But after we get into conversation and they're like, yes, everything is going to be tiled, all the bathrooms, and there's 5 bathrooms in this house. There's a big, huge kitchen, a full length basement, they got to tile the floor, the mudroom, whatever they're doing. And so we may say, hey, based upon what you're telling us, this line item, you're underestimating the amount of money it's going to cost for tile based on your square footage. So we need you to go back and relook at that. And again, it shows us as a partner to our borrower because we want them to have a successful project. We don't want them to get halfway through and say, oh my gosh, we don't have enough money for tile when we informed them up front, that they didn't have enough money for tile. So we're being proactive in that sense so that they can avoid those type of pitfalls. Okay. So when you're a good partner, we want to give information. We want to give education. We want to be able to support them and basically ward off from the start any negative aspects with preventing them from getting to a successful project, because we don't want them to be in the project any longer than they have to be, and they don't want to be in the project any longer than they have to be either, right? And so we also want our capital investor to get their money back too. And if they're in the middle of a project and run out of money, now we're into an entirely different discussion where that could have been avoided up front by us telling them they're underestimating something or they're leaving something off of their scope of work. So we're not doing it to be mean or increase prices or anything like that on them. We are simply showing ourselves a good partner to the borrower and to our capital investor by doing as much as we can, to the extent we can, to protect their investment. And again, those three major things that we do at Epic Impact Investors is, one, we meet the borrower in person and we view the property in person as well. We review the scope of work in detail. And then we have an independent inspector come and walk the property as well, inside and out, speak with the borrower on what their construction is going to be and what it looks like. And they review the scope of work submitted compared to what their walkthrough of the project is showing them. So those are just some of the things that we do here at Epic Impact Investors to protect the investment of our investor. And while we cannot eliminate risk, any investment is going to carry risk. That is the part and parcel of the definition of investment. We certainly can do our best to mitigate that risk. All right, for our investors and for our borrowers. So those are just three of the major things that we do here at Epic Impact Investors to help have a successful project, to help ensure that our capital investor gets their money back plus their return, and to ensure that our borrower finishes the project and that home is sold in a community of color to help build wealth there and close that wealth gap. That's what's so important to us here at Epic Impact Investors. So just know that when you're investing as a capital investor through Epic, that we are looking at the full scope. I have 20 years of real estate experience as a real estate attorney. I have been a private lender. We are real estate investors as well. And we're bringing all of that experience to the table to help bring a comfort level to our capital investors and to our borrowers for them to know, hey, we're not out here just trying to get them stuck. We're out here because we want to see them be successful. And a lot of our and not only our investors, but our borrowers are people of color. And they're starting out on their investment journey by fixing and flipping homes. And we want to support them and see them successful. So we're not trying to catch them up. We're trying to ensure and put safeguards around so that they can have a successful project, so that they can realize their profit as well. And then hopefully come back to us and be a repeat borrower and continue on what it is that they're doing and fulfilling their purpose. So that's what I wanted to talk to you all today. Anybody who is interested in passive real estate investing, give me a call. You can schedule a free consultation at epicimpactinvestors.com. Just go to contact us and you can schedule a free consult at your convenience. Let's just talk about what it is that you would like to do. Let's just talk about what it is your hesitations are. I know that I have to do a lot of education because people of color do not even know that this is a viable way to invest in real estate passively through a hard money lender. I've got plenty of free downloads for you all on the Epic Impact Investors website. You can join our free Facebook group, which is Epic Impact Investors as well. When we talk about real estate investing, I do come on live every Wednesday and we're talking about a different aspect of hard money lending or capital investing or real estate investing in general. So please take advantage of all of these resources, all of these opportunities to build your knowledge base and to increase your opportunities to passively invest in real estate. So this is my passion, epic-impact-investors.com. Reach out to me. Let's just talk about what your goals are, what you are hesitant about, what you're nervous about, and what we're doing to mitigate those risks. Okay, mitigate those risks. So join us here at Epic Impact Investors as a capital investor or even as a borrower. All right. We look forward to being of service to all of you all. And if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. We have no problems answering questions and really giving you all the information and the education that you need. All right. So visit us at epic-impact-investors.com or join our free Facebook group. Thank you all so much and have a fabulous afternoon.